Okay, so recap video from Friday night's show, part one. We will probably do a couple today. Last night, we talked about the Ligonier State of Theology article. We went through some of the highlights. We went through some of the main questions that were asked. We discussed why, how there were some errors on theology. We also looked at some of the encouraging things as well too, because there's a lot of improvement, especially with the millennial age, and there seems to be some confusion on who is, which is weird because you would think teaching about Christ and having people learn about Christ would be priority number one as a Christian, but it seems like there is lacking a solid Christology teaching in the church. And so as I was waking up this morning and I was thinking about last night's episode, and I was thinking about like what we can do with these findings, like how can we become better at being Christians, really? Because the truth of it is you can say and you can confess and you can claim to be a Christian, but if you don't know the basic truths about who Christ is, then we have to question why is there a disconnect? Where is it falling short? And as I mentioned again last night, the job of teaching and discipling is not solely reserved just for a pastor. I honestly think that's why there's so much confusion among evangelicals, because there's not a lot of discipleship happening. One of the questions was that most people agree that God is not concerned or involved with your day-to-day activities and decisions you make and things like that. And I think we see that because of this church movement that is just this, I call it easy believism, that you just pray a prayer, you raise your hand, and you're signed up to get into heaven, and that's all that you need to do. There's no long-term discipleship happening. There's no emphasis on long-term discipleship. And so that's why we're seeing such a disconnect with people's answers, people that are claiming to be followers of Christ, and yet they're not able to articulate what it actually means to be a follower of Christ, or who the person of Christ actually is. And so that's why I think it starts with us. It starts with, and I made this a big point too, it starts with using the platform that you have, that God has given you a platform. He's given us all a platform, right? What does it say in 2 Corinthians? It says that God is making his appeal through us to this world, not just specifically through the pastors and the teachers, but he is making his appeal through everyone. And I think that's important to remember. Don't be discouraged because you think you should have a larger following, or if you desire a specific position. Don't be discouraged if you're not at that place. Listen, with what I do on the internet, it is really easy for me to get discouraged and look at people who have much larger followings than I do, and even as I learn from so many people, it can be easy to have these thoughts like creep in, and you can almost start to become discouraged because you allow like somebody else's platform to prohibit you from using the platform God has given you. Does that make sense? And so as I'm making videos and using my resources and time and giftings to proclaim, Christ and to teach people sound theology, I need to do a better job of using my platform as well. And as I reflect upon what I can do, and as I think about how I can make more of an impact for Christ, I think it starts with producing more videos. I think it starts with getting better with consistent creation of content, to do more teaching, to provide more resources, and I think we can see where we can all benefit from it. All right, finishing the video. New location, not outside Branch Street anymore. I am downstairs in my library. We had a nice little day today. Also, Boardman, Christmas season traffic is in full effect already. So look forward to that. One of our favorite times of the year here in Northeast Ohio is Boardman traffic during the holidays, which somehow is even worse when it's sprinkling rain outside. Anyway, concluded the video. First part, I should say, talking about this need to do better, more, consistent, all these types of. This is what I was thinking about as I was driving home. Number one, I think the problem that we see most commonly is this idea that theology divides, and so the cool churches, I'll call them, are teaching to avoid theology because it's divisive. They're focusing in on serving. They're focusing in on what God can do for you, how God can make you rich or fix your marriage or give you a promotion. They focus in on that because they say that theology divides. The funny thing is, I don't know if it's funny, it's maybe ironic, more times than not, the people that are claiming that theology divides and are trying to avoid theology, they have a bad taste for theology. Those are the ones that are actually doing more harm than the people who are dedicating their platform and resources and time and talents to the promotion of good theology. So it's not necessarily those that are concerned with theology that are dividing. It's the people that are speaking out against the pursuit of right theology and understanding of Christ. Those are the ones that I encounter that seem to be who are the most divisive, that are teaching completely, wrong. I mean, honestly, when you read through that Ligonier article, the stuff that they are is wrong. It's not like they're missing it a little bit. Like the stuff that they're saying is wrong, and it's basic. Again, as I talked about on the show, there's nothing. This is not hard stuff. Basic foundational truths to what it means to be a follower of Christ. People are getting wrong. Like we can't continue to just say like, well, we just need to love more like Jesus, or we need to do more, we need to serve more. We need to stop doing that because clearly there is a disconnect somewhere. And again, as I mentioned, you and I, we have a platform. Every one of us has a platform. To appeal to those people that are around us. I think another thing that the problem we're seeing a lot of now is we have traded intentional one-on-one discipleship and promotion of that inside the church to more of an evangelical type of an outreach where we're concerned with getting people in the door. We want to create numbers and we want to create this environment where new people and unbelievers like to come into. And what's actually happening is the growth of the people in the church is suffering. Real discipleship is not happening. We're not promoting it. We're not encouraging one another to do it. We're not dedicating our time and our resources to doing it because we would much rather have 10 new people come to church instead of 10 people join a Bible study or 10 people commit to discipling one another and to talk about Christ outside of the context of the local church. It's unfortunate, and again, like I said on the video last night, it's unfortunate, but it does give us some hope because we know where we need to focus in on. We need to focus in on learning more about Christ. We need to, when we approach the scripture, we need to actually, as we're reading these things, like I said when I was reading through Colossians 1, if we believe these words to be the very words of God, we've got to do something with it. That's big. That's really, really important. It's the most important thing that there is. The Bible, as a follower of Christ, you believe that the Bible is without error, it's infallible, it's inerrant, it's inspired. That's where it starts. Scripture is number one authority. Not any sort of special revelation, not any sort of, well, God told me this. No, nothing like that. It's Scripture and Scripture alone. That is how we build our foundation of our faith. We got to know it. We have to handle it rightly. We have to take care of it. We have to guard it. We have to study it. We have to meditate on it. We can't allow we can't be in the Word just on Sundays. I think, and that also speaks to why we're seeing a lot of these questions being answered incorrectly. Because if the pastors of the church are focusing in on, well, let's do a sermon series on, let's do a giving sermon series. We need to do a new building, so let's teach about money. We need to add another campus. We need to add more lights and fog machines. So let's try to drum up some business in the offering plates. So let's teach about money. Let's teach about how Jesus can make you a better person. Or let's teach about how God will fulfill all the desires of your heart if you are doing insert the blank. we're not taking the scripture and pulling out doctrine. We are approaching scripture already with our presuppositions, and we're saying, like, this is what I want to teach on, so where can I find a verse to support this? We're not pulling theology out of what we're teaching in the churches. We're approaching the scripture as like a secondary. We're approaching it in a manner of, listen, like, I've got an idea in my head. I want to find something in scripture that supports it, instead of we're going to preach through 1 John. And we're going to pull exegetically all of these doctrines out, and we're going to go verse by verse. That's why the expository preaching and teaching is so important, because as you are going verse by verse, you're not allowed to skip over the tough things. You've got to talk about them. Number two, it requires the pastor to have his congregation engaged with the text, because if you're focusing in only on the text that's in front of you, you have to spend some time there to learn about it. And it allows the pastor to grow in his knowledge, and it also encourages people in the seats to grow in their knowledge as well. So as I kind of wrap up my thoughts for Saturday, I've really been, I don't know if convicted is the word. I don't know the specific word. But as I kind of mentioned, I think in part one, we have, and I'm using this term a lot, I know, but we have a platform. Like, we all do. Like, it's not just reserved for somebody on Sunday mornings. You don't have to be a pastor in order to talk about Christ. You don't have to lead a Bible study in order to teach somebody the Bible. It's as simple as just getting some of your friends together and having a text thread that just talk about Christ. Like, ask them what they're studying. Ask them what they're learning through the scriptures. Encourage one another. We do this one-on-one. I encourage other brothers to grow in their knowledge. I use social media as an avenue to encourage other people to grow in their knowledge. So with that, again, I sort of feel like maybe like a renewal in my spirit to just run fast and hard after Christ, and to produce content and videos and podcasts and articles, and give you guys good resources as much as I can. I'm just really, really convicted lately that that's what I need to be doing. And so I hope you'll support, and hope you'll encourage me on this journey, as we're 20 episodes into Theology Nights now. And I feel like, honestly, like, I'm just really beginning. I'm into a good groove, and we have a lot of exciting guests coming up. But I'm talking about doing more than just the Friday night show. I'm talking about, like, every single day. Like, let's use the platform that God has given us to make Him known. Let's use the platforms that He has put in place, like social media, to elevate the scriptures and to encourage one another to grow in their knowledge of scripture. I think we have such an amazing opportunity right now, that anyone can talk about Christ. Anyone. You don't have to wait until Sunday mornings at church to do it. You don't have to wait till Wednesday nights during Bible study to do it. You can talk about Christ all the time. Your platform is wherever you are, whether it be your social media pages, whether it be your job or school or with a family member or anything like that. But you have a platform. Let's encourage one another to grow. If I can help you with anything, please feel free to reach out to me. But stay tuned. I have a lot of videos coming, and the goal is to get into a good rhythm of producing videos almost daily, to just talk about what's going on in the theological realm, if you will, and talk about ways that we can encourage one another to grow, and to just sort of edify one another with the scriptures. So again, hope you'll support me on this journey. If you have questions or anything like that, make sure you go to our website, theologynights.com, find out more information about the ministry. Talk to you soon, guys. See ya.